The people are people. They like good music, they like to be entertained, they like to be a part of it.
Riley B. King, better known to the world as B.B. King, was more than a blues legend. He was the man who gave the guitar a voice that could cry, plead, laugh, and tremble with heartbreak. His tone was unmistakable. His vibrato was unmatched. His phrasing became a language of its own. But for all his greatness, B.B. King was always quick to remind people that he didn't invent the blues, he inherited it. He learned it. He lived it. And he carried the sounds of his heroes with him every time he stepped on stage. For years, fans begged him to name the guitarists who shaped him the most, the players whose fingerprints were hidden inside his iconic sound. But B.B. King rarely answered. He believed the blues was larger than any one musician. He believed every guitarist he ever heard mattered in some way. Yet near the later years of his life, he finally opened up. He finally revealed the 10 guitarists who influenced him more than anyone else, artists whose skill, emotion, and innovation carved directly into the DNA of his music. Some were expected. Some were surprising. Some were unknown to younger generations. And a few were names B.B. King insisted every musician should study if they wanted to understand the soul of the blues. When Riley B. King shared these names, he wasn't just listing favorites, he was revealing pieces of himself. His inspirations. His struggles. His roots. His evolution. And the hidden history of Lucille's voice. This is the untold story behind B.B. King's 10 favorite guitarists, and how each one helped build the legend the world still calls the King of the Blues. Long before Riley B. King became B.B. King, he was a young boy working the cotton fields of Mississippi, humming melodies under the relentless Delta sun. Music wasn't a hobby, it was his shelter from hardship, his escape from poverty, and the one thing that made him feel connected to something bigger than himself. The blues didn't come to him from a radio or a record store. It came from the voices around him, the mournful cries of plantation workers, the rhythmic stomp of church choirs, and the raw, unfiltered emotion carried through the air on humid southern nights. But as B.B. grew, he discovered that the guitar could express those emotions even more powerfully than his voice. And the moment he picked up the instrument, he began absorbing every influence he could find. These early inspirations, the first guitarists he admired, were the foundation of everything he would become. The most important of these early figures was Leroy Carr, a bluesman whose smooth, mournful delivery captivated B.B. long before he ever learned to bend a note. B.B. didn't copy Carr's technique, he absorbed his soulfulness. That sense of pain wrapped in calm, that quiet desperation beneath every phrase, would become a hallmark of B.B.'s own music for decades to come. Another early hero was T-Bone Walker, the man who electrified the blues, literally and figuratively. When B.B. first heard T-Bone's silky, almost effortless style, he felt something shift inside him. Walker didn't just play notes, he played attitude. He leaned back, loosened up, and made the guitar sing like a horn. B.B. later said that hearing T-Bone for the first time was like discovering a new part of himself. T-Bone taught him that blues didn't have to be confined to the front porch, it could be glamorous, elegant, and alive with color. And then there was Lonnie Johnson, the guitarist whose precision and clean articulation felt almost supernatural to B.B. King. What amazed him wasn't just Johnson's skill, it was his clarity. Every note had purpose. Every phrase told a story. From Lonnie, B.B. learned that the guitar could speak plainly and powerfully at the same time, without speed or flashiness. This lesson became one of the cornerstones of his style. B.B. King wasn't a guitarist who relied on complexity. He relied on truth. Growing up in the Delta, B.B. was also deeply shaped by gospel guitarists, players whose names never became famous but whose influence was etched into his soul. Men in small churches who played with conviction rather than perfection. Their phrasing, their tremolo, their call-and-response patterns all seeped into B.B.'s DNA. He often said that if he hadn't become a bluesman, he would have become a gospel singer. In many ways, he became both. These early influences gave B.B. King something more valuable than technique, they gave him identity. He wasn't trying to copy the blues. He was the blues. Every guitarist he admired in those early years contributed a piece to the musical mosaic he was building. By the time he stepped into a studio for the first time, B.B. King had already formed his own voice, shaped by heroes, sharpened by hardship, and electrified by inspiration. And as he grew older, the list of guitarists who inspired him expanded into the 10 names that would define his legacy. As Riley B. King grew from a young Delta dreamer into a rising blues performer, his list of inspirations deepened. These weren't just musicians he admired, these were artists who helped shape his identity, refine his tone, and teach him what it meant to make a guitar speak. When B.B. King finally revealed his 10 favorite guitarists, he emphasized that these players didn't just influence him, they were pillars of the blues itself. One name he always placed near the top was Blind Lemon Jefferson, the mysterious Texas blues pioneer whose haunting, unpredictable guitar lines left a permanent mark on young B.B. Jefferson didn't follow rules, he played with instinct, bending time, melody, and emotion at will. B.B. said Jefferson's freedom inspired him to stop treating the guitar like a rigid instrument and start treating it like a human voice, unpredictable, passionate, trembling with life. Then came Blind Willie Johnson, whose powerful slide guitar and thunderous spirituals shook B.B. to his core. Johnson's music wasn't polished. It was raw, primal, filled with pain and faith woven tightly together. From him, B.B. learned that emotion outweighs technique every time. A single aching note, delivered with honesty, could pierce the soul more deeply than a flurry of impressive licks. This principle became one of the defining foundations of B.B. King's own sound. Another massive influence was the great Charlie Christian, the jazz guitarist who changed the entire landscape of amplified guitar. When B.B. first heard Christian, he was stunned. Here was a man who wasn't just playing the guitar, he was playing melody with the fluidity of a horn player. Christian taught him sophistication, phrasing, and the power of subtlety. B.B. realized that a guitar solo didn't need fireworks to be memorable. It needed elegance. He also revered Muddy Waters, not for technical brilliance, but for his command. Muddy didn't just play the blues, he embodied them. His sense of authority, his presence, his ability to dominate a stage with a single chord resonated deeply with B.B. King. It taught him that a true bluesman doesn't need to shout to be heard. Power can be quiet. Power can be calm. And, of course, there was Howlin' Wolf, whose ferocity and emotional intensity left B.B. awestruck. Wolf's guitar work wasn't clean or refined, it was a force of nature. His playing reminded B.B. that the blues must be honest, even when it's messy. That the point isn't perfection, but expression. Wolf's rawness became a counterbalance to the elegance B.B. learned from Christian, helping him craft a sound that was both smooth and guttural. These players, along with the early influences he grew up admiring, formed the backbone of B.B. King's musical education. Each contributed something different. A tone. A feeling. A philosophy. A way of approaching the instrument that wasn't about showing off, but showing truth. B.B. King once said that the guitarists he admired most weren't just musicians, they were storytellers, each pouring their entire life into every bend, every slide, every trembling note. Their music wasn't about escape. It was about catharsis. And the lessons B.B. learned from them would eventually help him identify the final names on his list, guitarists whose brilliance didn't shape just his playing, but the entire future of the blues. When Riley B. King, known to the world simply as B.B. King, spoke about guitarists he admired, he never did it lightly. Every name he mentioned carried a story, a memory, a lesson etched into his decades of touring, recording, and redefining blues music. And in this part of the documentary, we finally step into that intimate space where he revealed, with surprising candor, the 10 guitarists who shaped him the most. For B.B. King, the guitar was never just an instrument, it was a voice. And those he admired weren't simply technically brilliant, they spoke through their strings. His list is less a ranking and more a personal journey through the styles, emotions, and influences that molded his signature sound. He began with T-Bone Walker, the man whose electrifying stage presence and bending, shimmering vibrato changed everything for a young BB. Hearing Walker for the first time was, in King's own words, like watching lightning strike the same place twice. T-Bone made the guitar sing, and BB realized the instrument could lead a band as powerfully as any horn or voice. Then came Blind Lemon Jefferson, whose raw, emotional blues introduced BB to the idea that simplicity could be devastatingly profound. Jefferson played with a looseness that felt almost conversational, and BB often credited him for teaching the power of leaving space, the belief that a note held with emotion could mean more than a flurry of fast fingers. Another giant on his list was Charlie Christian, the pioneering jazz guitarist whose fluid single-note lines reshaped BB's understanding of melody. Christian blended blues sensibility with jazz sophistication, and BB adored his ability to float between genres like smoke in a room. Then, in a moment that surprised even longtime fans, BB praised Jimi Hendrix, not for the fireworks, but for the emotion under the noise. He called Hendrix a man who could cry through an amp turned all the way up, a statement that revealed just how deeply BB recognized emotional truth, even in the wildest of sonic landscapes. No list would ever be complete without Albert King, a man whose aggressive, bending heavy style left a permanent mark on blues and rock. BB admired Albert's attitude, how he attacked every note with intent, almost like he was wrestling the guitar into telling the truth. Their shared last name wasn't a coincidence, Albert was family in spirit. Of course, BB also mentioned Muddy Waters, whose gritty slide guitar and powerful voice helped define Chicago blues. While Muddy wasn't known primarily for virtuoso guitar playing, BB admired him for something deeper, authority. Muddy played like a man who knew exactly who he was. BB said he tried to carry that same certainty into every performance. Another name that meant the world to him was Robert Johnson. To BB, Johnson wasn't a myth or a ghost, he was the purest form of blues storytelling. Every note from Robert feels like a confession, he once said. King believed that Johnson's haunting phrasing taught him how to express pain without ever raising his voice. From there, BB turned to Buddy Guy, the showman whose unpredictable, high-energy playing pushed boundaries. He praised Buddy's audacity, his willingness to take risks on stage, even if it meant missing notes. To BB, that kind of fearlessness was the heartbeat of blues. He also deeply admired Eric Clapton, not just as a skillful guitarist but as a student of the blues who honored its roots. Their friendship spanned decades, and BB often spoke warmly about Clapton's humility and genuine passion. He listens, BB said simply. And that makes him dangerous. And finally, BB smiled as. When Riley B. King finally revealed his 10 favorite guitarists, he wasn't just sharing a list, he was confessing the blueprint of his own musical soul. And in this final chapter, we explore how those 10 legends didn't just inspire him, they became the roots of his timeless style, the echoes behind every note he ever bent on Lucille. For B.B. King, influence wasn't imitation. It was absorption, taking a fragment of someone's musical truth and reshaping it into something that only he could express. His signature vibrato, for instance, directly descended from T-Bone Walker, but B.B. refined it into something almost vocal. Whereas Walker shimmered, B.B. wept. He turned vibrato into a language, a way to hold a note hostage until it revealed its emotions. And each time he did it, you could hear the spirit of T-Bone guiding him. From Blind Lemon Jefferson, he absorbed the courage to be simple. This became one of B.B.'s most profound trademarks. While other guitarists chased speed or complexity, B.B. approached the guitar like a storyteller. One carefully placed note could silence a room. That minimalist, emotional approach, rooted in Jefferson's phrasing, became a defining element of blues for generations. Charlie Christian taught him melody as architecture. Christian's smooth, single-note jazz lines opened a new world to B.B., blending blues feeling with jazz sophistication. This influence allowed B.B. to step outside strict blues frameworks and create solos that felt smooth, structured, and deeply intentional. It's why so many jazz players admired him even though he rarely considered himself a jazz musician. His lines had Christian's clarity, but his tone, warm, round, pleading, was purely B.B. Then there was Jimi Hendrix, a younger man but still a profound emotional force. Hendrix reminded B.B. that expression could be limitless. Wild, unpredictable, explosive, yet always deeply emotional. Hendrix's influence pushed B.B. to experiment with phrasing and intensity, proving that blues could evolve without losing its soul. Even in his calmest playing, there was always a little of Hendrix's fearless spirit hidden beneath the surface. Albert King and Freddie King, no relation by blood, but brothers in blues, formed the shoulders on which modern blues rock would stand. B.B. admired Albert's bending heavy, attacking style and Freddie's sharp Texas ferocity. He blended both approaches into something more refined, more emotional. From Albert, he took boldness, from Freddie, fire. And together, their influence helped him reach younger audiences who were craving something raw but melodic. Muddy Waters reminded him that authority mattered. B.B. didn't copy Muddy's gravelly vocal style or his powerful slide guitar, but he absorbed Muddy's presence. The way he stood on a stage like a general expanding his territory. B.B. learned that the guitar wasn't just sound, it was posture, attitude, conviction. His calm confidence, his ability to command a room without theatrics, was something he credited partly to watching Muddy from the wings. And then came Robert Johnson, the man many consider the origin of the blues as we know it. Johnson's haunting, confessional playing taught B.B. that pain can be beautiful, that tragedy can be translated into art. Every time B.B. held a single note, letting it cry, letting it stretch just long enough to make the audience breathe with him, he was honoring Johnson's ghost. Johnson had turned suffering into sound, B.B. made that suffering universal. Buddy Guy contributed something more elusive, danger. Buddy played like he had no fear of missing, breaking, or losing control. That recklessness inspired B.B. to push the boundaries of emotion, especially in his live performances. To take chances. To let the guitar lead him instead of the other way around. It made B.B.'s concerts unpredictable, moments where the audience wasn't just listening, they were waiting to see what would happen next. Finally, Eric Clapton became the bridge between B.B. and the modern world. Their collaborations weren't just musical, they were generational exchanges. Clapton brought B.B.'s music to younger listeners, while B.B. reminded Clapton of the roots that made him. Their respect was mutual, deep, and transformative. And that is why B.B. King's list of favorite guitarists matters so much. Not because of the names themselves, but because each one represents a piece of the mosaic that formed his legendary sound. When B.B. King played Lucille, you weren't hearing one man, you were hearing a century of blues history, distilled into a single voice.